Good morning, friends. This is Ron with Mobile Fix Automotive. Today we're going to be working on the mystery misfire, and it is on a 2000 Toyota Avalon. This vehicle actually belongs to a very good friend and customer of mine, and I've had it since yesterday so I can shoot the video. And there's a couple of things we're going to address during this video. One of them is hopefully going to help you do it yourselfers in how to actually locate your specific misfires when the scan tool gives you absolutely no hope. And the other thing I'm going to address, which is something I want to do right now, there is a device that's advertised on the internet. I saw a ad for it that came across my Facebook page as one of those suggested posts. And I'm not going to say the name. There's multiple companies out there that have this, but there's one specific that when I saw the video, as a 30-year plus professional, honest, true honest mechanic, I not only threw the BS flag in the air, but I actually got mad when I saw the video, because I took it, when I watched it, as the guy selling the product as being a mechanic, and he's very skeptical, and he bought the device and this is what it does. And in his specific video, just for legality issues, I won't say what he found wrong, but it was not only stupidly simple, but most of the newer cars that have CAN bus that were built after 2006 have a light on the dashboard to actually show you the specific thing that his little so-called mechanic in a box fixed. And I want to tell you that, and we can go around in circles all day long about how much experience I have, whether or not you trust me, whether or not I trust you. I don't have to do these videos. I don't make a whole lot of money off of them, and the shop that I own is an owner-operator. I'm not rich. I don't own my own house, okay? And it's not because I'm not good at what I do. It's because I don't rip people off. But this specific device needs to be dealt with, and I'm going to deal with it on this video as well as show you how to work on this. So for those of you that are just watching the video for the misfire, please be patient, because this is a pet peeve of mine. Anytime somebody sells a device that says it will replace me, I have an issue with that, okay? I'm not saying that there are not crappy, low-life, dirtbag mechanics out there that have no business underneath the hood of your car. That's not what I'm getting at. I've worked with a lot of them. I've worked with some really good mechanics. I've worked with some honest guys that I have been blessed in my life that they've given me the grassroots diagnostics to be able to even shoot this video, because if I was a normal mechanic that used and relied solely on a scan tool to do diagnostics, I could not troubleshoot this engine. And I'm going to get into that, but I'm going to step back and touch base one more time on this little device, and it's going to be the last time I talk about it, because as I do these diagnostics, most of you that have common sense, and I would hope that most of the people watching my videos do, you're going to realize that had I had spent, $100 or $200 for a device that says it's going to fix my car for me by plugging it in and letting me read data off of my cell phone, would never have been able to fix this particular car. It would have just been a complete waste of your money. If you're going to buy one of those devices, buy it strictly as a code scanner. And yes, if you have a simple O2 sensor that went bad, or a throttle position sensor that's not reading properly, it's going to point that out. But I'm going to give you a little tip. If you ever do a scan and it comes up with one of the codes we're going to see on the scan tool here, but this specific code was set when I disconnected a coil pack with the engine running. If you ever see the word circuit in your code, it is not the device. So in other words, if you see, and I'll bring it up here in a second, but if you see a code and it says coil circuit, it doesn't mean the coil's bad. It means the computer's not either receiving or sending information to and from that particular device. It's usually in the wiring. The reason why you're going to see 3 circuit codes on the diagnostic scanner when we start on this here in a second is because when I did my preliminary diagnostics when the vehicle came in, I disconnected coil packs one by one while the engine was running, and as soon as you disconnect it, you have a coil, or a circuit problem, correct? So it set a problem for a circuit. But that doesn't mean that the coil packs are bad. So I just want you guys to keep that in the back of your mind. Okay, so let's get to it. Here we go. I'm done rambling about the wonderful mechanic code scanner. Okay, so 2000 Toyota Avalon. This engine has a distinct misfire. I'm going to start it up here. I'm going to pause this and I'll get right back to you. Okay, so I started the engine up. And it's hard to see in the video, guys. I got a good high definition cell phone, but the engine has a distinct miss. You can hear it fluttering. It's just going th-th-th-th-th-th-th-th. You can definitely tell it's dropping a cylinder. And I am in my scan tool data. Let's see if I turn this light off of this. Oh yeah, no more glare. Okay, so what I'm looking for right now is my misfires, which I think I'm in the wrong screen for, so bear with me. Yep, I was in engine data. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go up here and I'm going to show you that there's no misfires showing. This engine, I'm going to have to turn the light back on so I can get a better... This engine is shaking like crazy. There's cylinder number 1, cylinder number 2, cylinder number 3, and cylinder number 4. If you see the red stripe in the center of the screens, each one of the lines, when those lines go up and down, let me go up one screen. See this top one for the engine load where it goes up and down almost like a heart monitor? If you have a misfire and you're in graphing mode, which is what I'm in right now, that's what these red stripes should be doing. The specific misfire on this engine is on cylinder number 4. And if you notice, cylinder number 4 not only isn't showing any on the graph, but even on the column down here in the lower corner, it's showing 0 active misfires, and then the first number and the second number are the minimum misfires and the maximum misfires per cycle. And it's not showing any of it. Now, if I take and I go to a PID list, which is just the normal screen that you see on a basic handheld scanner, there's cylinder number 1 through 6 all the way across the board, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Now here's the reason why I want to show you that I don't trust these systems, and you couldn't be able to figure this out with just a basic plug-in scan tool. So if I take this coil pack and I disconnect it, right now we should actively be on 5 cylinders, okay, which means this engine should be misfiring, which it is. I plug it in and the engine doesn't change engine RPM. I unplug it, it doesn't make any difference whether it's plugged in or not. That's how I did the diagnostic on this engine, is I started it up and I disconnected coil packs until I found a coil pack that I could disconnect and it didn't change the engine. If I disconnect this one, oh wow, that really runs bad. I don't know if you can see how bad that thing's shaking, but that thing really runs bad. Plug it back in, engine RPM smooths out, it still has a misfire but not as bad. And then if I disconnect cylinder number 2, oh yeah, big time miss. Okay, so that tells me a couple of things. It tells me that the cylinder's firing, tells me the coil pack's firing, spark plug's firing. But if I plug this one in and unplug it, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't change engine RPM at all. And that's how I was able to verify that it is a number 4 cylinder misfire, is just grassroots diagnostics. The cylinders that are on the next cylinder head over, which are the ones up against the firewall, underneath this intake plenum, your first cylinder over here on the 3.0 is cylinder 1, then cylinder 3, and then cylinder 5. If one of these coil packs is bad on that back bank, it's a little bit more difficult to deal with because you can't really get to them. I mean, I've seen people get them in and out. You have to be a contortionist to do it. It only takes half an hour, 40 minutes to remove the intake plenum and just set it aside. Put a rag over top of the open hole down here so you don't drop stuff down in the engine. The only downfall is that when you take the plenum off, you cannot start the engine and disconnect the coil packs like you can on the front head. So if you're watching this video and you're trying to save money, you can't afford to throw a $100 coil pack, you know, $600 coil packs at it, because they're $100 a piece and there's 6 of them, so it's $600 in coils. Oh, and then another tidbit for you. I had a customer bring me a Ford Triton motor 2 weeks ago for a blown spark plug, which is one of my other videos, and we did a repair on it, and he went online and bought 8 coil packs from a company. He got all 8 coils brand new, and it was like 80 bucks. Please guys, use common sense. My dad raised me, and he had one saying that stays in the back of my mind: you get what you pay for. If you buy cheap stuff, you're gonna get cheap stuff. Coil packs are 100 bucks a piece, and I understand not everybody can afford them, but if you can avoid at all costs buying some online cheap coil pack, if this coil, which was manufactured and sold by Toyota, which is a good quality coil, and as a matter of fact, I think, don't quote me on this, but I believe Denso is actually one of the OEM suppliers for Toyota, which is another reason why I run them, because they do a lot of OEM coil packs. If these coils are going to break down and not show up on the scan tool, what's going to happen if you buy 6 coil packs while you're doing a routine maintenance and throw them in, and the 3 that are underneath the intake plenum back here that take forever to get to end up being weak and causing misfires, and you can't figure it out because it doesn't show up on the scan tool? So I'm not trying to confuse you, but I am trying to give you a heads up. Buy good quality stuff and don't deal with the stress of trying to figure out what you did wrong. It's not worth the time. I use Denso coils. I'm not trying to sell their products. They don't back me in any way. I don't get any kickback from them at all. The reason I use them is because in the 30 years I've been installing coils, I have never in my shop or on my mobile side ever warrantied a Denso coil out that I have personally installed. Okay, that's not to say that they can't have a failure or they won't have a failure. I've just never experienced one, and like I said, I'm upfront with you guys. I don't hide anything. If something works and it's not coming back and costing me embarrassment or my customer time, why would I change and put anything else in? So that's my theory. So really quick, just to show for the naysayers, they're going to be like, oh, it said a misfire code, it showed you which cylinder it was. I'm going to show you the scan tool data that was on this when it came in. Mind you, the bottom 3 coil circuit failures, just ignore them. They were set because we disconnected the coils with the engine running. So let's go ahead and check the scan tool data real quick. We're going to back out of here. I don't think we need the light just for the scan tool. Okay, we're going to go to display codes. Takes a second for the system to initialize. Current codes. Okay, so here's the codes that were in the system when the vehicle came in. P0128, coolant and thermostat problem. This more than likely has a thermostat that's stuck in the open position. The car does not have an overheating problem, so the thermostat, I almost venture to guess that this has a fail-safe thermostat in it. I have a lot of problems with pulling those out and they're locked in the open position. One day I'll do a video on that. Then the P0330, which is knock sensor 2. See where it says circuit? Right here. Knock sensor 2 circuit fault, bank 2. Okay, I'm going to address that in just a second. But you see the P1305 igniter circuit fault number 2. Igniter circuit on the computer is considered the coil pack. And then the 1315 and the 1325, see where they all say circuit? Okay, remember when I disconnected the number 4 coil pack and it didn't change the engine RPM? As a matter of fact, it's still unhooked. Oh, let me zoom it back in for this. It's still unhooked. This is a circuit problem because the electrical connectors are not sending a signal from the coil pack back to the ECM. If you notice, there's 4 connectors on a coil pack. But for those of you that are used to the old style coils, they only had 2 wires, right? You had 12 volt in, and then the negative wire was the trigger wire, the ground that fired the coil. Well, welcome to the new world, because now you have an OBD2 system that is monitoring that, and even though this is only a 2000, it's before CAN bus came out, the second 2 wires are actually circuit wires that send a signal back to the ECM to tell it what the coil pack is doing. So it's able to know whether or not that circuit's got a problem. So if you see the word circuit, always look for rats chewing on wires, stuff that's not plugged in properly, broken electrical connectors, stuff on that lines, because that's generally what that ends up being. So one more quick shortcut on, if you don't know what an engine sounds like when it misfires, and you know when you disconnect a coil pack and it goes duh, 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 and you don't understand that, I'm going to show you another easy way real quick that you can tell whether the coil pack is bad. Okay, find either an engine RPM like a tachometer, or on your scan tool. Most of you almost all have scan tools by now of some sort. Go into your data display and look for your engine RPM. Initializing. Okay, we're going to do engine data. Okay, see where our engine RPM is at 703 right now? Get this zoomed in a little bit better. 617. That's because now the AC just turned on and it loaded the motor, so it went down to 640. So that top black stripe that's highlighted is our engine RPM. Okay, so we still have a coil disconnected, so I'm going to plug the coil back in. I know it's a little out of focus, but I figured the screen on the computer is more important. See how it's still at 670, 676? Okay, now watch what happens when we put a new coil pack in here. Okay, so I'm going to take my 10 millimeter and I'm going to pull this out. Now, I don't recommend that you work on an engine with it running. However, I've been electrocuted so many times, it's a risk I take. So my recommendation is don't do this. It's not, you should shut the engine off, but I'm trying to save video time and I know I'm not going to get lit up. Oh wow, that engine's running way better. Smooth as silk. And it's going to get even better because this whole time that's been disconnected, the injector, the fuel injector for cylinder number 4 has been spraying fuel, but there's been no spark to light it off, so it's going to be running really rich. Look where the engine RPM is now. Okay, 664. I'm going to bring the RPM up a little bit to clear the engine out. And then let it return back to normal so it burns off that unburned fuel. Okay, so the engine is going to stabilize right now at about 650. Now, if you're troubleshooting this and you're not sure if a cylinder's firing, we were at 650. If I disconnect the cylinder and make it misfire, it's supposed to drop the engine RPM down, and it just kind of made me look like a fool because it didn't do anything. Let me plug this back in, see if the RPM comes back up. Yep, there it is. Okay, so it fluctuated enough. So that little tidbit right there doesn't always work. It did during the preliminary video I shot earlier. It changed by 100 RPM. This time it didn't, even though we actively caused a misfire on that cylinder. But most of the time when you disconnect them, you'll hear the engine go bu 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 when you disconnect a coil pack because you're dropping the cylinder. So I'm gonna check the office real quick, make sure nobody's in there. So this engine's running smooth now, and it's all just over a simple coil pack. But there's another way that we can do this. There's a tool that I use, which I can't show you how it operates now because I've already replaced the coil pack. but this tool right here actually tells me what the coil packs are doing. If I turn it on and I aim it at the coil, bend this thing down here real quick, it'll actually tell me what the peak voltage is on the coil pack. See, 15 peak volts. The spark plug's firing at 1.5 milliseconds and it's idling at 650 RPM. There's the reading on cylinder 2. And there's a brand new coil pack. Okay. If I take the new coil pack out, plug the old coil pack back in, and then do a reading on the scanner, see how it's jumping all over the place? It goes from 0 volts to there's 0 volts, 13 volts, then it doesn't even read. It's picking up the coil pack's just crap. It's not firing at all. It's trying to, but it's just not giving it any gump. We go back over to a regular coil, and that's the readings we should be looking at. The KV's a little on the high side sometimes, but that just means the coil pack's getting a little weak. Yeah, see, that coil pack's done. So we take and disconnect the electrical connector. Once again, I don't recommend you do this with the engine running. I am a professional. I get paid for this, and I'm willing to take the risk. Put the new coil pack back down in there. Plug it in. Put the bolt back on it. Tighten it down. Check the kV voltage, and it's completely steady. So that's the end of this video, and the customer is going to be happy that it ended up not being a variable valve timing issue. And that's the other thing I want to tell you quickly. If you disconnect all 3 of these and the engine doesn't change RPM with all 3 disconnected, then it's going to be a problem in the variable valve timing, either the actuator that's back here, the solenoid actuator that's back there, or the actual mechanical portion that's behind the timing belt. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to give me a call. I'm going to continue shooting videos to help you guys do it yourself, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks a lot.